Hi, it's Rhea. I came to Paris 6 years ago and I did not speak French at all, and now I'm pretty fluent in the language. So in this video, I will be sharing with you my top 10 tips that helped me reach C1 level in French. And these tips are some of the things that you can do from your own home. You do not need to join any class for this, nor do you need to be in France for this. So I hope this video will be helpful for you. I will be dividing this video into reading comprehension, listening, speaking, and writing. So if you're particularly interested in one of these, you can skip ahead. So let's get started. So the first part is reading comprehension, which I found was the most difficult for me because reading new words and phrases which I did not understand was really hard to comprehend in the beginning. So what I found the most helpful was to actually read the books that I've read in English, to read the same books in French. So for example, I read Harry Potter in French, and this really helped because I already knew the story. So as I was reading, I could easily follow everything that was happening in the book, and I could also anticipate what was going to happen. I already knew the characters and their storylines, so it was really easy for me to understand the book. So I learned a lot of new phrases and so much more vocabulary, and I could also use these phrases in everyday life. My second tip for this section would be to change the language of your phone and social media to French. This is something that's really easy and that a lot of us don't do it just because it sounds like it won't be that helpful, but it really helps me a lot because even just small everyday words, I could understand them in French. And if your whole phone is in French, you are reading French every single day, every time you open your phone. And that really helps you to really understand all of the words together. And my last tip for this section would be to actually follow some news outlets such as Hugo Decrypt. I will link his Instagram in the description box below. And he is someone that I followed since the beginning because he makes reading news so much more interesting. There's always a photo and a video with the news, so it makes reading this news so much more interesting and easy to understand since you have the picture or the video together. I will also link some other Instagram accounts that would be really interesting for you to follow. So now let's move on to the second section, which is listening. And I would say this would be the easiest to really master because there's a lot of resources available for you. Firstly, I would recommend you to listen to a lot of French music, and I won't recommend artists like Edith Piaf just because I think they're really classic and that's not the kind of music that I would listen to every day. So some of the French artists that I like are Stromae, Angèle, and Booba. I will also link some of their songs down in the description box below. So what I did was I created a French playlist on Spotify and I would listen to their songs every day when I was cooking or taking a shower. And this really helped me grasp the manner in which they talk because, as you know, French is divided into formal and informal way of speaking. So I learned a lot of informal words that you won't really learn in a French class. My second tip for this section would be to rewatch the TV shows that you've already seen in English in French. So for example, I watched Friends, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Grey's Anatomy in French, and that really helped me as well because Friends, for example, is a TV show that I know almost all the episodes of, so I could really easily understand everything that they were saying just because I knew the storyline already. I would recommend you to watch in French and have the subtitles in French as well. This would help you the most, but if you're still really at the beginning stage, I would recommend you to watch in French and have the English subtitles down for your reference. So some of my favorite TV shows that I've watched are Ash, The Parisian Agency, The Hookup Plan, 10%, and Bref. So Bref is actually a series that's available on YouTube and there are 82 episodes of this. Now I would really recommend you to watch Bref only if you are at least at a B2 level, because if you watch it before, you'll really get overwhelmed. They speak really fast and it's really friendly language, so it's not something that you would learn at your French classes. But if you just want to watch it for fun, go ahead, but it's going to be really fast. I was really overwhelmed when I saw it. I was at a B1 level and I did not understand a thing. I really even lowered the speed of the YouTube video just for my comprehension. And some of my favorite French movies are Intouchable, Amélie, and L'Auberge Espagnole. I will also link them down in the description box below. So my next tip for this section would be to actually follow a lot of French YouTubers this is something that I really enjoyed because I followed French YouTubers in the area that I'm interested in. So I actually searched for cuisine recette et végétarien. And then I found a lot of vegan and vegetarian YouTubers that I followed. In this way, I had good recipes to eat as well as understand and learn French. So this is really an amazing way to learn French. I will link some of my favorite YouTubers in the description box below. But if you're interested in anything, just type the same phrase in French and you'll find French YouTubers. So if you want a French vlogger, just type Une journée dans ma vie and you'll find a lot of French vloggers. My last tip for this section would be to actually just constantly listen to French music or French podcasts anytime, either if you're in the public transport or if you're waiting in line to get something. And if you only have a few minutes, you can just listen to a French song. This really would help you to always be in a French environment, and it will also prompt your mind to actually start thinking in French. And this is something that I took a really long time to start doing. So I would really advise you to really start from the beginning. If you constantly put yourself in a French environment, the faster you will adapt to the language. Now let's move on to the speaking section. And this is one of the most difficult sections in my opinion, especially if you're someone who doesn't live in France or if you don't have a lot of friends to speak in French with. So the number one tip that I have for those who do live in France is to always speak in French. In restaurants, in cafes, in a bar, in a pharmacy, anywhere you go, always try to speak in French. The number one mistake that I made was to speak in French, but when the waiter, for example, would reply to me back in English after hearing my French, I would reply back to the waiter in English. So I would really advise you to avoid this. Even if the waiter or anyone replies back in English, you can always try back to speak in French. And this would really help you to think in French as well. And this is the only way that you can actually improve your speaking skills. It's by trying to speak in French at every little occasion that you get. And if you're someone who doesn't live in France, it's going to be much more difficult for you to speak in French on an everyday basis, which is fine. But what you can actually do is speak to yourself in the mirror for at least 5 minutes every day in French. So maybe you can speak 20 lines with yourself in French about your day. So what you did today, what you ate, what time you woke up, even simple lines like this really help you to gain confidence when you speak in French. There's a great application called Totem, which actually partners you up with other people who want to learn another language. So if someone wants to learn English and I want to learn French, I will be paired up with that person and I would actually get the chance to speak and write in French with this person, and the person can reply back to me or speak to me in English. So this is something that you can also try out and see how it works out for you. Last tip for this section would be to not care a lot about your accent, at least in the beginning. And this is something that I still struggle with a lot because I don't have the French accent yet. So even now when I try to speak in French in public, most of the time or a lot of times people don't understand me, and that makes me more shy and more reserved to speak in French. But I would really advise you to not care that much about your accent because everyone has an accent. So even if you think people don't understand you, it should not stop you from speaking the language. And if you're struggling to remember a lot of new words or phrases, I would advise you to actually create a small book of vocabulary like this. I would write down every single word or phrase that I heard either from a TV show or news outlet or even in everyday life. And this really helped me to make my French better. Every single day, I would go through this list and that helped me to remember these words and phrases. So this is something that you can do either in a small notebook like this one or even in your notes application on your phone. So let's move on to the last section of this video, which is writing. And in my opinion, this would be the least important if you're learning French not for professional reasons, since you would not have to write in French every single day. So the one thing that I did every single day without fail was to write at least 10 sentences in French. So either I wrote them in a notebook, and 10 sentences could be anything, either about my day, what I ate, or just simple sentences like this. Or I was messaging someone on Tandem and I created these 10 sentences in a text exchange with that person. And this is something that really helped me to learn the grammar rules as well as learn new vocabulary when I was hesitating with a new word. And something else that helped me the most with this section was to keep a vocabulary book, as I mentioned before, because this is really how I learned a lot of new vocabulary. Because if you're looking at 20 new words, for example, every single day, the chances of you remembering even 10 of them are really low. So this is why I kept a vocabulary book with me to actually learn these new words that I was looking at. I also liked to carry these small notebooks with me, firstly because they're really small and compact. I used to carry them with me literally anywhere that I went, even in a restaurant or anything. And if I was meeting up with a French person, I would make sure to actually look at my vocabulary list and try to at least say 10 of these words in a new sentence or a phrase. So that really helped me. So if you found this video helpful, like and subscribe, and also comment down below what other future videos you would like to see from me, and I'll see you in the next one.